I keep doing that creative procrastination,
Yeah.
it's the procrastination. like,
Yes, I like that. Procrastination. And I think there's something to be said for liking to start things, but maybe not finish. Because I feel
oh,
like I can start things, but I don't know that I'm a good finisher. And I think that's where the
wow.
perfectionism comes into play, you
Yes.
know? And so that's also I think very real of like, of course you're like creating is fun. Like starting something new is fun. Like, no, I don't
Yeah.
want to finish editing that. No, I want to do something fun and new and like
Uh-huh.
exciting.
Yeah. Like procrastination will make you poor. Like
Oh, I love that.
because you're sitting here trying to do everything, but you're not doing the one thing, the simple
Right.
thing, like you said, that could actually generate some income. Hey, Entreleaders. Happy Wednesday and welcome to another episode of the Leaders Lab podcast. If you are new here, I am your host, Dr. Charity C. Campbell, better known as Dr. C, and I'm a doctor of management, a world-class millennial global leader, an academic professional, and a multi-passionate entrepreneur. And here in the Leaders Lab, we talk all things entreleadership. That's entrepreneurship and leadership, communication, and balance as a millennial professional. And today's topic is, well, it's going to step on some toes, mainly mine, probably all 10 of my toes, okay? Because we're talking about perfectionism and procrastination. Oh, these two P's are like cuss words. They're so profane. Um, perfectionism and procrastination, they actually go hand in hand and they often fuel one another. Whether you're a leader, an entrepreneur, or aspiring to be either, understanding why these habits happen and how to break free will create incredible shifts in your career and your life. And our very special guest, who is new to the Leaders Lab, but she's not new to Dr. Charity TV, she is sharing with you how procrastination is actually, get this, a form of protection. What? Procrastination is a form of protection. And also, she's showing us how to bust through the perfectionist fantasies that go on in our minds. So, you know what time it is. Go ahead, grab your coffee, grab your tea, or whatever it is, a snack, a sandwich, whatever it is you need, along with something to take notes with, because you are not going to want to miss any of these gems. And I do not want you to trust your mind, your memory, to remember the treasure that's about to be shared with you. So let me tell you about our very special guest today. Jillian is a master certified life and health coach who helps people eat healthy without needing willpower or feeling deprived. That's my type of girl right there, okay? That's my type of lady. She is my type of friend. She teaches busy families how to manage their weight by eating what they love so that everyone in their home can not only just lose pounds, but they can have a healthier lifestyle. Jillian Lama has spent years working with clients all over North America on achieving optimal wellness. And she knows firsthand just how difficult it can be when you're juggling work schedules like crazy while trying to simultaneously maintain active lifestyle or even trying to stay fit, motherhood, all of these things. And so as someone whose own lifestyle was transformed through her own personal journey into mindfulness training, we are so fortunate to be able to glean from her wisdom today. So, entre leaders, without further ado, please help me give a special warm welcome to the lab, Jillian Lama. Welcome to the Leaders Lab, dear.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, this is our first time having you on the podcast. But we actually just met a couple of months ago. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's July already. We just met back in April
Mhm.
for the Mamas and Mentors conference that I held, and you had a session there. And listen, I was still impacted by your story because most of the time when women give birth, I think one of the biggest things for me that I remember about you is the fact that you went hiking, like you were still working out while you were pregnant. And I was like, maybe I can do that minus the hiking. Maybe I can do that too. Like, oh, maybe I could do that too. So I know that today, whatever you share is also going to leave a lasting impression on our viewers and our listeners, and of course, me too.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and to share these things. I was talking about procrastination in a workshop earlier in the year. And when I get nervous, I talk really quickly. I speak very, very fast. And so what was supposed to be like a 45, 50-minute presentation, I think I did in like 15 minutes. And I was ready to get done. And I'm kind of like, did I even breathe? Like, what just happened here? So I have to remind myself to like slow it down. And so,
Yeah.
and also, if you're like me, where a lot of times you'll listen to things once, it's like give yourself permission as you listen to this podcast to listen, let stuff absorb and down and like kind of sink in, and then go back with a pen and paper and like write stuff down, take
Absolutely.
notes. And like there's no wrong
Absolutely.
or right way to do it, but find a way that
Mhm.
works for you.
Yeah. When I'm in a meeting or when I'm practicing Chinese, learning a new language, that's
Mm-hmm.
some of the things, especially if they're audio or video tutorials,
Mm-hmm.
pronunciation. I do. First thing I'll do is I'll watch it. I have my notebook and my
Mm-hmm.
pen ready and handy, but I
Mm-hmm.
will watch it first.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'll watch it on normal speed.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second time, depending on how much content or how fast the person is speaking, I'll slow the speed down,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll go through again, and this time I'm writing. So there are just a couple of different note-taking practices for you all as you prepare to uh learn today, and don't forget, like, you can also download this episode and go back and watch it time and time again if you're or listen to it time and time again on the Apple version. But right here on YouTube, it's still here. Just go to the Leaders
Right.
Lab playlist and watch it over and over again. So yeah, let's see, I want to start with one of the first things, because you're stepping on toes already, and all I did was just mention procrastination and I got salty. Okay. All I did was mention procrastination, and I was just like, I don't like this topic already because Jillian is coming for me today. So she's coming for me today. So one of the things when I read that, I said procrastination as protection.
Mm-hmm.
And I started thinking about it, and I'm like, yeah, it could be seen as a form of protection. I know fear is one of
Mm-hmm.
the things that provokes procrastination, but when you say procrastination as protection, like
Mm-hmm.
what are you talking about specifically here?
Mhm. Yeah, so I think we often hear of self-sabotage, and that's kind of like the overarching category. And then underneath it, you might have some other habits. So
Mm,
something like procrastination could fall under this habit of self-sabotage. And when we say that and
okay.
we think about this, a lot of times we think of I'm working towards a goal and now I am actively thwarting that progress. It's kind of how we
Uh-huh.
are thinking about it when we talk about it as self-sabotage. It feels very defeating, like it's sabotage. Like, what am I doing? And then we can internalize it because it's now I'm doing it to myself. I can't even blame somebody else, or I can't even look to some other circumstance. It's like, no, it's me. So then we feel even worse. And so we just kind of keep heaping shame on top of it, and it doesn't get us
Mm,
anywhere. Instead of
wow.
looking at it as a form of self protection, because anytime that we are working towards a goal, a dream, a vision, something that we want to do, there will always be a downside. There's always an
Mm,
aspect of your brain keeping you safe, because our brains are like mullets. I think we may have talked about this before on the summit, but it's business in the front, party in the back. We've got our thinking brain in the front here. We've got our habit brain in the back. The habit brain just wants to party. It wants to seek pleasure and avoid pain via the path of least
mm,
resistance. And so what it is doing is any time of pain, it can be real or perceived pain, and it can be mental, physical, or emotional. So it's not just like,
mm,
oh, a bear is running out of the forest, like it may have been, a couple thousand years ago, or even maybe
mhm,
a couple hundred years ago. It's no, like I might be embarrassed. What are people going to think of me? But it's not perfect. Is it good enough? Am I good enough?
wow.
And so, really, the us procrastinating on tasks, projects, goals, things like that that we really want to do is often our habit brain trying to keep you safe. It's trying to avoid you feeling uncomfortable, feeling awkward, having thoughts about yourself, having doubt. So that's what it's really there. And that's how it's designed. It's designed to keep us safe. That part of our brain is part of what has helped us stay alive this many years. But we
Wow.
also have to realize when it's no longer useful and beneficial and how to work through that. But we can have so much more compassion now for ourselves when going through a time when we feel like, when we know, okay, I'm totally procrastinating on this. What's wrong with me? Instead of beating ourselves up for it or just trying to force or willpower your way into doing it, we now can get clear on why we're doing it and like what's really
Mhm.
going on. And we can essentially we can just calm down our nervous system, because that's really what's happened here.
How are the two related? How is procrastination related to perfectionism? How's perfectionism, related to procrastination? Does one cause the other, or are they like cousins somewhere in another life? Like,
Right. Yeah. Like second cousins twice removed.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. Like, how are they related to each other?
Yeah. So they feed off of one another is kind of like how I think of it. It's like they are
Mm.
like two pieces of the same puzzle. And
Oh,
so
wow.
it's interesting, right? Because you kind of have it feeding in, like perfectionism feeds into procrastination, because if I can't
Hmm.
be perfect, well, then I'm going to put it off until I can be, because now I have wrapped up my self-worth and how I feel about myself and how I think about myself in being perfect. That's like how I
Yeah.
identify. That's how I'm good enough. Or even like this idea of, well, but I can do perfect. It's not about it's like if I got a B on a test, it's like, well, I could have gotten an A. You should have gotten an A. Like you could have
Hmm.
tried harder. It's that thought of like
Hmm.
you're not living up to your potential. It's this kind of like subtle beating yourself up. And so
Hmm.
when we're trying to be perfect, we can procrastinate and put things off. And sometimes it's going to be more specific and like I have to say the right thing. I have to
Yeah.
prepare the right slides. It has to be this
Yeah.
way. So we have thoughts about what it needs to look like. And then likewise, procrastination feeds into perfectionism. And I've got this great quote, and I don't know who I stole it from. So I'm sorry, I don't know who to credit here. But it's the tragedy of perfectionism is thinking that doing a little isn't good enough. And that's also where
Wow.
procrastination comes into play, because now we are putting off even doing a little bit because that's not good enough. And this can play
Wow.
out in every area of life, whether it's, well, I can't go for a walk for 15 minutes. That's not good enough. Like, that's not going to do anything. Well, I can't just
Yeah.
have a salad at lunch and replace my French fries and still eat the chicken sandwich. Like, that's not good enough. So we can have a lot of these small things. Or if you're like working on a podcast, well, I can't just draft one episode. I need to draft 12 of them. Or, like I can't
Right.
just launch with
Right.
one episode. I need 4 or 5 or however many you think is the right number. So
Yeah.
they kind of spin off of one another. It's not that one necessarily leads to the other, but we can often see traces of each in the opposite one.
What
Yeah.
is what is a perfectionist fantasy?
Yeah. So this is good. And I grabbed this term perfectionist fantasy, and I heard it first from another life coach named 𝗟𝗟𝗖𝗞. But it's
Okay.
essentially it's a fantasy about being perfect, but it lives in our head. Because we can never be perfect, that's all it will ever be, is a fantasy. But we get that hit
Wow.
of dopamine in our brains. We're like, oh, we're thinking about like when we achieve the goal, when we get promoted, when we start the business, when we make X amount of money, when we lose the weight, we're like, this is going to be amazing. So we have this vision, we get this hit of like how good life is going to be and how good it's going to feel. But
Yeah.
the way that we get there is going to require perfection. And so it's always going to be a fantasy, and it's always going to be tomorrow. It's going to be, I'll start Monday. I'll start next month. I'll start next semester. When things settle down,
Wow.
when it's not so busy, like the summer, who can do things during the summer, or the holidays, you know what? It's fine. I'll just start in the new year when I've got more momentum or I feel more motivated.
Mm.
And so it's really just being aware and onto the stories that we tell ourselves about why we have to be perfect, what it means about you if you are or if you are not perfect. That's often what it is it's like, what are you making this mean about you?
You mentioned something about waiting until
Mhm.
things are perfect to begin,
Mhm.
which now I understand why procrastination and and perfectionism are going hand in hand here, why they're related, because
Mhm.
that's like the number two reason of
Mhm.
why procrastination happens for me. Number one reason is I just don't want to do it. If I'm going to be honest, as you mature in life, like you get to a point to where you're not trying to make anything sound pretty anymore. You're just like, I just don't want to do it. It's like
Right.
I know what I have to do, but I just don't want to do it. Like, and so as I was reading part of your submission, you were talking about tomorrow thinking.
Uh-huh.
Tomorrow thinking and how it feeds your perfectionist fantasy. Can
Mhm.
you share a little bit about that? Like, what is that?
Mhm.
This tomorrow thinking and how it feeds your perfectionist fantasy.
Mhm. Well, it's like a trap. It's like this big giant bear trap, right? That like just grabs you by the leg and it won't let go. So, it's
Wow.
this thought that when if I start tomorrow, then I can be perfect. Well, I'll
Ah,
start this Monday. I'll start it on the
yeah.
first of the month, the first of the
Uh-huh.
year. I'll
Yeah.
wait for this perfect timing because the perfect time's always going to be tomorrow. So sometimes it can be like, screw it. I already blew it. I ruined the week. I messed up my eating today. Like I ruined the day. Screw it. I'll start over tomorrow. It's this trap that I have to be perfect in order to hit my goal. And I wasn't perfect today, but maybe tomorrow is the day I'm going to be perfect. I'm going to nail this time block schedule to a T. And you can try week after week after week and get nowhere, just like I did. If this
Wow.
was like 2 years ago, I was making diet plans with my time. I was very restrictive in terms of like, well, this is what I've got to do. This block, this block, this block. And so I would block out my time because, well, that's what I was supposed to do. That's what I was taught. You make a very specific time block for each hour, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. or whatever your time is. It's like you block out what you're going to do and then you guard it fiercely, right? It's like you protect it like this big mama bear. And I couldn't do it. It just wasn't realistic because ultimately I kept trying to fit like a 40-hour workday into my week. And I kept thinking that I am not a legit entrepreneur if I'm not working 40 hours. Like I
Whew.
have to be working 40 hours or I should be working as close to 40 as humanly possible. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't give myself like time blocks to shower. I wouldn't give myself time blocks to make lunch. Sometimes little bits, I started to put that in there over time, but it was really interesting because then I'd get to Wednesday and I'd be like, psh, screw it. I haven't like followed this time block. I'll try again next week though, right? Like maybe next week this will be perfect. And I never was. And so it was one of those things that I even after having Caleb, I felt like, all right, I need to block out my schedule and I need to figure out when is he napping? And he wasn't on like a clear nap schedule. So I was like, how am I supposed to make my time blocks when the baby's not, it was like a hot mess. And then I found this like time management coach. She's like the anti-time blocking time management coach
Oh
and
wow.
through another group program that I was in. I was like, I need you. So
Wow.
learning like and so it's always kind of taking things with a grain of salt. So listening to like what I'm saying and just realizing if you give this a try and you're like, that did not work for me, it's not you. Like, don't make it a personal thing or something that you have to
I
keep
like that.
trying and forcing. Give yourself permission to find another method, another philosophy, another thing that might help you to work through either procrastination, overwhelm, perfectionism, anything that you might be going through. Like there are multiple ways to do the same thing. And so just because some people are telling you it should look this way doesn't mean it has
You snuck in another profane word here.
to.
You said it. You said it. You sandwiched it.
We
You
went there.
sandwiched it. You did it. Why, Jillian? I wish I hadn't heard it because if I hadn't heard it, then I wouldn't have to address it. But you said it. You put that overwhelm right in the middle. Why would you bring that up? Oh my God. Because as someone who I'm not as bad in terms of perfectionism as I was prior to 2020. Prior
Uh-huh.
to 2019, 2020. That's when I really had to just put my foot down and say, Charity, get it together. I just kept pushing everything off because I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I don't have, the tech gear that I want. And I want to do a podcast, but I don't really. And it was during the pandemic where I was back in the States
Mm-hmm.
and my god sister, shout out to Sheris, my god sister, she has started a podcast just like randomly.
Yeah.
And I was like, now wait, what? She doesn't have a studio. She didn't even have a microphone. She just had her phone and Anchor.fm. And I was like, first of all, what is
Yeah.
Anchor? And she was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I got started for free. It was nothing. I was like, okay, so wait, you have a podcast? She was like, yeah. And she was getting monetized.
Yeah.
because she had people who were listening. I was like, here I am with a professional mic. Look, I had a semi-professional microphone at the time.
Yeah.
I had headphones. I had a computer, like not even just doing it from your phone. Like I had an iPad. I had all the things. And I'm
Yeah.
like, she just started with her phone. Charity, what is your problem? And so
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have the graphics. I want I want show music and all of this stuff. And here she was. All she did was just start. She used
Yeah.
everything that was already provided by the application.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? You are giving excuses. You're giving excuses because I was so overwhelmed with the idea of not being perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
So
feel
I
you
put it off.
so yeah, I feel you so hard because I bought my first podcasting mic in 2016 and I actually launched my podcast in 2021. So just to kind of, say you're not alone. I had 3 mics. I had multiple
Oh,
mics.
that
I
that
had
makes it
all the things and I
that
still
makes it
didn't
worse.
start the podcast. Yeah.
That makes it
Yeah.
worse. Wow.
It-
So what was it for you that made you to, procrastinate, to
So
make you put it off?
Yeah, so I think there were a couple of things. It was actually really interesting. I saw another life coach who started a podcast, and I was like, oh, look at her go! She's starting a podcast. Cool. Like it was kind of like encouraging of like, yes, I can start my podcast too. And
Yeah.
then after she did like so many episodes, I was kind of like, I'm still like thinking about this. And so
Yeah.
for me, it came down to okay, it's do or die right now. Like we're either going to do it or we're going to take it off the bucket list. We're going to stop talking about it altogether. So
Wow.
last year I joined this launch your podcast boot camp. And I had done some different boot camps before. And I realized that the ones that were like launch your podcast in 2 weeks was way too much for me. Like, especially with a newborn, I had like Caleb was 3 months old. I did not I was not sleeping through the night. I did not we had moved across the country. I did not have the time and the energy to be able to do something in that short amount of time. And so I found a 3-month boot camp instead that was really helpful, that guided me through some of the tutorials.
Mhm.
And so I think a lot of it was the tech was really what held me back, was like, there were thoughts about like, well, I don't know what to say. I don't know if I'm going to have enough to say, or what if I run out of
Yeah.
ideas was one thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another one was like, well, I don't want to edit it, but then I have to hire somebody and then I have to manage it. And, then there were thoughts of like, well, now I have to create all this content ahead of time. And so there were just a lot of, I'd say tech was probably one of the biggest obstacles or challenges for me, that it's
Okay.
like, you can find an excuse or you can find a way. And so I let it be an excuse for a very long time. I ended up hiring somebody to do the editing of my podcast for the first, I don't know, maybe like 12 to 20 episodes. I don't remember how long she stayed with me, but she edited like a lot of them, and especially in the beginning. And then it got
Mhm.
to the point where I just wasn't able to keep up and keep recording like enough in advance. So I found another software, which it's called Descript,
Okay.
DE, and then the word script, SCRIPT. And that is
Okay.
great because you can record right into the software. You can drag audios into it if you record elsewhere. You edit it like you would edit a Word document. So when I cut out words and phrases, I can edit out specific words from the audio, and then I can go into the audio, which is down along the bottom, and I can edit out my gasps, or like when I take in a deep breath, or I laugh and it sounds like this witch cackling or something creepy. It's like I can take out certain weird things, and then it'll automatically filter through, and it'll remove all of my filler words, all of my ums, buts, likes, all of that stuff. And then it also has this studio sound that you can select to where you don't have to adjust anything else. It just automatically sets it to like as if you had recorded in a studio. So it's a very easy way to now record, edit, and then just get your podcast out there. So I'm
That
a
saves
huge
so
fan.
much time.
Yes. It's huge. And I think that's the like one of the nice things too, is like when you have been putting something off for a long time, usually technology has kind of caught up and there's like some much easier ways to do it.
I think that is the positive side to it. Is
Yeah.
like, well, but it can also be an excuse to be like, well, right now they don't have it out. So, but
Right. Yeah. Let me just
I'm
wait.
sure in about a year, let me just wait for like, AI is going to come through and just do everything for me.
Right. Right.
But
Yeah.
so, okay, I definitely want you to share. Do you have a referral link for the Descript?
Yes,
Do
I
they
think
have like
so.
that?
Yeah. I will
Make
share
sure
that
you
with you.
send that to me so I can
Yeah.
put it in the show notes and in the
Yeah.
description
Absolutely.
box for our listeners and viewers, just in case they're like, oh, I need that, because I'm one of those, oh, I need that.
Yeah.
Okay. I spend so much time cutting out dead air and
Yeah.
everything. And it's just like, whew,
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
I edit
It's
all the stuff
awesome.
myself.
And even then, even once I found that, then I started to notice I was procrastinating on the first couple of episodes because my thought was, I have to say the right thing. So it was like,
Yeah.
I have to say the right thing in these first 4 episodes to get the listeners and to prove that this was worth it and was worth my time and energy and money and all these, right? Like there was a lot of, I have to prove myself. There was a lot of
Yeah.
pressure. Now, well, I better
Yeah.
say the right thing. You better not say the wrong thing. So then
Mhm.
it's like, what do you say then in the first 4 episodes? Like it's 4 episodes. You only got like 2 hours
Yeah.
to work with, but so
Yeah.
just recognizing. And so by doing this process that I teach around procrastination and doing it on myself too, and realizing like, oh, yeah, no, this is just my brain trying to keep me safe. It's just trying to protect me. It feels like it needs to prove something. I need this to, like be, I don't know, be amazing in the very beginning or something, right? Like there's some kind of pressure there. I had these thoughts around like, I have to say the right thing, which
Yeah.
naturally had me feeling pressured and just, uncertain about myself and like what I was
Mm.
going to say. So of course I was going to
Mhm.
go and clean. I was going to be like, heck yes, I'm going to vacuum the whole house. Those stairs, like they have not been vacuumed. And by the time I get to the top of the stairs, it's like, I'm already at the top of the stairs. I mean, I might as well just vacuum the second floor. And then those dirty dishes, right? It's like, I would procrastinate. And so I just, you
Yes,
know,
procrastinate clean.
yeah. And I'm like, I'm doing something productive. I got to get it done anyways. But I was
Ah,
not getting done what I had wanted to do for the day. And so
wow.
that's what's important is that it's like, are you doing the important things that need to get done? And this is where I differ from other people who say, like when you get started, sometimes you just need to build momentum. And they're like, just do what
Mhm.
feels easy, do what feels easy. But if all you do is the easy stuff, it doesn't always mean that you're doing the needle moving stuff, whether it's in your career, with the leadership, in your business, in your home life. Like, is this a needle moving activity or is this like your
Wow.
busy work?
I love it. So how do you move through that period of procrastination? And even I feel like doing the easy stuff is also procrastination too. Yeah, you have some
Yeah.
action, you have some
Yes.
activity, you have some movement,
Yeah.
but if it's not, like you said, the needle moving activity, then basically you're still procrastinating. So how do we move through that without willpower, or
Right. Right.
without threats or things
Yeah.
like that? Like how?
Yeah. So what I teach people to do is to do a brain dump. So you just want to get everything out of your head, like just write out all your thoughts about the particular task, project, whatever it is that you have on
Okay.
your like to-do list. What are your thoughts? What are your fears? Because like I
Okay.
said earlier, even the things that we really desire, that we really want to do, there will be a drawback. Every time I talk to a
Okay.
client about losing weight, there is something that holds them back of like, what is my family going to say when now I've lost weight and then they haven't? What is my
Yeah.
husband going to say if he doesn't like my body? Or what if I start getting looks or this attention from other men? So it brings up some of the fear and uncertainty that the brain has around what if this good thing that we really want does happen, because this could
Mm,
be bad. Because that's all our brain
okay.
wants to do, protect you from pain, protect you from anything that could cause pain. So that's what it's
Yeah.
looking out for. So when we do this brain dump, we can just write out, get it all out, right? Like there's nothing right or wrong, no good or bad. Don't censor yourself. Just get it out of your head. That's what we want to do.
Okay.
And then we
Okay.
want to look for the one kind of driving thought that feels the most impactful. And as you're writing, you're going to start to like, you'll spot it. So as I was doing this with my podcast, I started writing, and then I very clearly was like, oh, I have to say the right thing. That makes so much sense. Like, of course. Like you'll know what the one, like what the primary unintentional thought is. And then from there, you
Wow.
can start to see, okay, what is the feeling that this creates? So for me, it was pressure. And then you can write out, okay, now what do I do when I feel pressured? Well, now I go and I do some like productive procrastination. Now I typically will go clean. I'll go attend to the baby. I'll go, call my grandpa because, somebody needs to check on him. So get very specific, because
Mhm.
the next time you catch yourself cleaning, it's like, oh, was I planning to clean right now? Was I planning to tidy up? Was I planning to do the dishes? Or am I doing this to procrastinate? So that's why we just want to get clear on what actions are we taking as we are procrastinating, is so that we can get
Yeah.
clear or just honest with ourselves and catch it earlier. So once we know like what that unintentional thought is, now we can create an intentional thought that's going to be more of our mantra, that's going to help us move, like want to do the thing. So it's going to be something that's empowering, it's going to be
Mm.
motivating, and it's going to combat that fear or that doubt. So
Okay.
for me, instead of I have to say the right thing, my new thought, the intentional thought was, when I speak, I change lives. It's
Wow.
my simple words will change lives. Like I don't have to
Mhm.
make every single sentence like life-changing and mind-blowing, right? It can be
Yeah.
my simple words will change lives. And that to me felt empowering. That was like
Mhm.
motivating. And so then it was like, oh no, like I don't have to say the right thing. I can just speak my truth. I can speak what I know needs to be heard, and
Mm.
I can trust that that will resonate with the right people. And now it's like, oh, well, now it's so much easier then to take the next step and to decide, okay, what does this look like? Okay, it means titling the next 4 episodes and starting to just outline, what do I want to talk about in these specific 4 episodes, without having to try to please everybody, because people pleasing was a big aspect of that.
Yeah.
Another thing that can come in with like perfectionism and
And
procrastination.
procrastination.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
procrastination.
And the
Yeah.
overwhelm, and like it's I think people pleasing and overwhelm often go hand in hand. Often we say yes to things, and so often it's like we don't even give ourselves time to think. It's like an automatic blurt of like yes, I can do that,
Why
instead of
is
like
that?
pausing. I think it's just a habit. Like I think I grew up as a people pleaser and like trying to make people happy, and then if they were happy, then they wouldn't be angry or they wouldn't yell, or like it was
Mm.
different things that I learned, I think, more in childhood. And so you
Yeah.
just kind of adopt it, where it's like that's just the natural tendency. It's how you learn how to operate in the world. And so
Okay.
it's like I just have a lot of um experience with this habit. It's like
Mhm.
that's it really. It's like it's just a habit. So the more that you
Wow.
can start to see where the habits are, and then you can start to now have conversations around, okay, can I go back to this person and tell them no, or can I pause and then tell somebody no? And I think a big piece is also allowing other people to own their emotions. I am not responsible for them. Just like they are not responsible for my emotions, I am responsible for them, and not
Wow.
making that anybody else's responsibility. So the
I
more
love
that we
that.
can let them feel what they want to feel, the more like I allow myself to feel this way and not blame other people or other circumstances, it's like the easier
Mhm.
it is now to decide, what do I even want in this situation?
So getting to this point of writing down all the unintentional thoughts, writing down all the and I love first of all, that procrastinate is hilarious, okay? Because I find myself doing it might not necessarily be cleaning. I think
Mhm.
I actually find this sounds bad on my part,
You're a
but I find
procrastinacker,
my
aren't you?
listen, procrastinator, creator. Like I will go and I will start creating graphics for something totally unrelated to what I'm actually supposed to do. And it's
Yeah.
just like, because when I'm creating, I'm literally in like, I feel like I'm in heaven. Like I am in
Yeah.
this euphoric state because I'm a creative and I
Yeah.
really do love. So I'm like making video and I know I'm supposed to be writing an article.
Yeah.
I'm like, that can come later. Or like,
Yeah.
I'm doing all the fun stuff because
Yeah.
I'm honestly trying to avoid the real like the work that I'm supposed to be doing. When you were talking about write down all the unintentional thoughts and then replace them with intentional, like,
Mhm.
how can I actually do the thing that I'm supposed to do? For me, I also think too, it's like, remember the reason why you're supposed to be doing something
Mhm.
so that it can help you to, I won't say get over the perfectionism, but at least
Mhm.
deal with it correctly.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because if I keep just focusing on, well, I want it to be perfect or I have to be this, but it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, the longer you procrastinate because you're waiting for things to be perfect, your audience, like the people you don't even know exist and
Mhm.
who don't know you exist, the ones who are waiting for you, there are competitors who are coming up who are
Mhm.
less qualified, you know,
Mhm.
less
Yeah.
dope, if we're just gonna be like, they don't have all of the stuff that you bring to the table,
Yeah.
but they are doing something
Yeah.
and they're not worried about being perfect. They're just
Yeah.
worried about getting out there so people can see them, and they get these clients, they get these
Yeah.
contracts, and I'm just like, Charity, do you know how long it's been taking me to create a course? I have had people who've asked me for years to create courses and to have master classes. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, I can't do it because I don't know what to do with the master class. Clearly, I do live streams every week.
Yeah.
Jillian, help my brain. Like, clearly, I do master classes every single week with a live stream. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't have a call to offer, or I don't have an email list. Clearly, all of these things are there, they're coming. But it's just, I know what that imposter syndrome sets in.
Uh-huh.
Even for us, like, and it's like, but there's no reason why imposter syndrome should set in for either of us, because we've accomplished enough to this point. But
Oh, but it
I'm
does.
just like, it sets in. And
Yeah.
I really want to create passive income with a course,
Mhm.
but I'm
Mhm.
just like, oh, but I want it to look like, I'm going to make it look perfect. And I need to make sure that I have enough time to sit down and batch record like all of my things. And
Mhm. Mhm.
perfectionism,
Yeah.
procrastination, I don't do it at all.
Yeah.
And then that creates
Yes.
overwhelm, and
Right.
I eat.
Yes.
That's my process.
Yeah.
Perfectionism, procrastination, overwhelm,
Uh-huh.
like get into my feelings, and then I eat.
Yeah. Let me grab a snack. That'll make well, and that's just a logical way that our brain has learned, like, let me escape this emotional pain. Let me escape this conversation that's going on right
Yes.
now. We're going to go do something fun, something that we know is like a reliable source to feel good. Yeah.
Food.
Let's grab a drink. Let's grab some food.
Mhm.
Some people will
Yeah.
go shopping, like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. We just want to start to recognize and see the patterns, because when we can bring awareness to it, now we can start to change it. But we can't change what we aren't aware of, what we don't know
Yeah.
exists. I had a friend who I was getting these Instagram messages from him today actually, and I was like, this is weird. He wants me to like vote for him for something, and I was like, sure, whatever, send me the link. I'll like promote, vote for you for this ambassadorship. Well, I get this link, and it's like comes from Instagram as like to access your account link, and I'm like, oh yeah,
Uh-uh.
no. And so
Uh-uh.
I wrote him back, and I don't think I have his phone number anymore, so I messaged another friend, and I was like, hey Donald, like, I need you to tell Jeff that his account has been hacked, because I was like,
Yeah.
tell me something only you and I would know. Like
Yeah.
I'm like
Yeah.
now quizzing this guy, like, this is not real. But he can't fix it if he does not know that it's actually
I
a
love that.
problem, right? Like, he needs to be
Yes.
aware, like his Instagram has been hacked. So
Yeah.
just like we need to be aware that so that we can solve the right problem. So often we approach things as, I just need more willpower. I just need to suck it up and do it. Like, it's like we have this approach, and a lot of times, well, I want to say a lot, maybe half the time, we're not even solving for the right problem. When we start to understand, like, this is what the real issue is, now I can go to work on that, instead of, well, I just have to figure it out. I just have to say something that's going to please everybody. Or I just, like, I could still have created those 4 episodes, but coming from a place of, when I speak, I change lives, is going to create a
Yeah.
whole different energy than, oh, I hope I say the right thing. I hope they really like me.
Right.
I need to prove that this
Right.
is good enough, or that I'm good
Yeah.
enough. So, yeah.
So how do I then? You see, I turned it on to me now. This
Come
is
relax
this is
on my
my
couch.
therapy. This is my therapy, guys. Give me a chance. This is my therapy. So how do I then get past the whole complication? That's what it is. It's like, even when you have clarity about what you should do,
Mhm.
perfectionist people, like
Mhm.
this one here, we tend to overcomplicate things,
Yeah.
which really makes us, it's like the overcomplications.
Uh-huh.
That's what causes us to be overwhelmed. That's
Uh-huh.
what causes procrastination. And then that's what also causes the frustration and stagnation, because you just don't
Uh-huh.
move. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, if I would have kept it simple, but I
Uh-huh.
feel like simple isn't good enough.
Isn't good enough.
Like
That
that.
is your thought. Now, that is going to be the key underlying thing, is this isn't good enough. This simple work, only 3 modules, only this amount of length, only this quality, like, this isn't good enough. Right there, that is the key, like, thought underpinning the procrastination.
Hmm.
In at least some of your stuff. So let's just apply this to the course. So if you're feeling overwhelmed in any area or about anything, it comes from not having clear priorities and knowing exactly what's important and what's not, and having a
Okay.
very clear designated list of what 1 to 3 things can you get done today, like
Okay.
results oriented things. So we
Okay.
just want to get clear on what is a priority, what is time sensitive per day, and how can you now start to map out all of these things so that they get done in the appropriate time. You learn how to
Okay.
delegate, which means that we have to give up a little bit of control, which feels kind of awkward sometimes and like uncomfortable because people do things different ways, or they might do something that you could have done at like 95%, but they do it at like 75%. Right. And it's like done is better than perfect. Right. We
Yeah.
have to like remind
Yeah.
ourselves of some of these things. But the overwhelm comes from often thinking like there's too much to do and not enough time is typically where that comes from. So when we can get really clear on what's important, what needs to get done, and when, and then we actually like write it down, put it on your calendar as to these are the things that I'm going to get done. And don't overwhelm your day. If I have a day with like 6 client calls, I'm doing one thing. Like I might have a backup list of like, hey, if I get to these other things, that's great. But there is one thing that's going to get done that day in addition to those other 6. Because my calls are 45 minutes. So it's about 6 hours worth of talking that I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's a full day. So being aware of like what's going on, and then now starting to break it down. So like with the course, for example, it's looking at, okay, what comes first? What is my next best step? So maybe you decide, all right, I'm going to go with this particular course platform. So I put mine on Kajabi. So when I was creating my, it's called the Body You Crave Academy. It's like videos, worksheets, stuff to go for with all of my one-on-one clients so that they can learn and then we can coach on it in our calls. And our calls are more about implementation, not just let me
Mhm.
tell you information. So
Okay.
that I started with, okay, what are the most important things that they need to know when they come in? Like, how can they get started losing weight without needing me? So that's kind of how I was
Okay.
looking at it, was from this lens of like, what's going to jumpstart them? What would be like the foundation and the basics? So I created that. And then it was like, oh, and then I had this idea or these thoughts around like cravings and food urges. So then I created some stuff around that. Now I'm working on the emotional eating side. And okay, now after working with dozens of people on this topic, it's like, okay, now I know here's how I want to teach it and what I want to say. So now it's like,
Okay.
okay, write a couple drafts. There'll probably be like 3 videos, maybe make a worksheet or 2 if that seems relevant. But it's like we just get started. So I've had this course since 2020 and it hasn't been fully finished. And that's okay. Like
Wow.
I'm still building it. I'm still like this year alone, I've created a lot of content that I can repurpose and put in there. But
Yeah.
it's something that it's like it's growing, it's evolving, and yeah, and there wasn't a lot of pressure either. I mean, I think when I was doing it, there was a little bit of pressure, but there's
Yeah.
also an aspect of like, this is good enough. This is helping people. Where I'm at and like what I know is already still 3 to 5 steps ahead of people. So where like they're coming in and like what I feel like is common knowledge and just kind of like a natural remark, or like there was something I said to a client and she was like, it totally blew her mind. And it was just something I kind of made as like an offhanded comment. And she was like, oh, right. It was like this idea of like her boyfriend could be responsible for his own emotions and they weren't her fault, or like she wasn't causing them. And it was like
Mhm.
just this one concept. And she's like, oh my gosh. Like,
Light bulb.
yeah, for the next 5 months, it was just like, wow. It's just like life changing, right? And it's like things that we say, I think we can really easily discredit and devalue what we know because we are often like experts in a certain field. Like we really understand something inside and out. We know something very well. We have a lot of experience. And we often put ourselves in rooms and in situations where we are continuing to learn from other people, but we're often with other people who maybe know more, who have more experience,
Yeah.
who have more
Yeah.
training, who have more, of these different qualities. So just being aware and really valuing what you do know and reminding yourself that this is good enough. The small steps, these are good enough. 1% better is good enough. Just writing one draft is good enough. Making the
Wow.
first video is good enough.
Oh, so you already created your course, but you're still adding or planning to add more content. So you started with something
Mhm.
and then that's what, I mean, that makes sense. That makes sense is
Mhm.
to start off at least simple and then see
Right.
what the interest level is. And then you can say, hey, I've done something. And then let the people tell you whether or not it's too easy, or it's not
Mhm.
enough, or if they need
Mhm.
more, or if it's too much.
Mhm.
Um, that's a good idea. That's like a
Mhm.
genius idea.
And
Because
I
me, I'm like, let me have 6 modules, 8 modules, 5
right.
modules. Let me come with everything. But you said you just start with 3 and just go from there.
Yeah, like, can we just create the basics of, like, what it is that they need to know or understand? And it depends on how you wanna do things. Because I work with clients one-on-one, this is, like, supplemental. I'm not just selling the course. So,
Right.
it depends on what all you are wanting to sell, but I know a lot of people who they sell the course with having just the first week done, and then after they've sold it and they start, then they make everything else. And I've
Yeah.
done things like that in the past as well. And to me, I don't like that as much. I think it feels a little pressury. You get a lot created in a short amount of time. You get paid to
Yeah.
create it now, which is great. Like,
Yeah.
there are pros and cons. It just depends on what you want to be doing. But yeah, I think it's all about what do I need to be doing, and then also what can I outsource? What can I delegate? What can I hire somebody to do? Where can I ask for help? And even for those of you who might have kids or home responsibilities or different things that you have, it's like, where can you ask for help? Where can you outsource things? Where can you just kind of not necessarily have boundaries, but just have certain times, like certain days when you're on, certain days when you're off, or certain times when you're
Yeah.
off. Having that downtime is really important. And giving yourself that permission to take as long as you need, but to also like to set some deadlines and to be able to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah. I like that you were addressing some of the primary issues and concerns that people have. It's like, well, where do I get help from? How do I even, what do I even know? What should I outsource? Like why, what,
Yeah.
who,
Yeah.
like,
Great questions. Right. So we started by like outsourcing the cleaning of the house so that every 2 weeks we're going to have cleaners come. We started with one company. They did a good job the first time. And then after that, they kind of like faded off. So we're like, all right, let me see who else I can find. Let me find another company, because I
yeah,
like having that outsourced for the most part. It's
yeah,
like I can do the dishes in between, I can vacuum, but like they do the bulk of it. So that's one thing
yeah,
that I like to do. Getting help from babysitters. So we live in a state where we don't have any family. We're in North Carolina. We've got family in Virginia, family in Georgia. It's a minimum
mhm,
of a 4-hour drive, if not
yeah,
longer.
yeah, yeah,
So we also have babysitters. I have a standard sitter. I have 2, maybe 3 kind of backup sitters. And then I also have a community where I can go and ask for help if I really need something. Like I need somebody. So tomorrow I had planned to get my hair cut, and it was a last minute opening that she had. So I haven't found a sitter yet. And I'm like, okay, the alarm, or not quite my alarm, but like my flare has gone up, and I'm like, hey, I need some help for tomorrow. Does anybody have a
yeah,
daughter, a niece, somebody? you know?
yeah, yeah. The signal. This is
Yeah,
the
right.
this is the signal. We need help.
Right. And then also looking ahead at things. So we traveled for a week. We got sick for 2 weeks. So it's like we're trying to get back into the swing of things. My husband's going to be traveling. He'll be doing a training, so he'll be gone for like the entire month of July. And so I already know, like, all right, Friday night, like I got a mom's night out scheduled. Like we're gonna go and I'm getting a massage. I'm gonna go have some
Yeah,
fun. We're gonna do
yeah,
some stuff. And then the last weekend in June, I'm going to be doing some stuff. In July, I've got things planned. It's like, I'm going to plan out these activities now so that I've got enough time for me where I feel good and I feel
mhm.
rejuvenated and restored. And then I'm not bitter and resentful and feeling like I'm doing all the work, because that's just a story I'm telling
I
myself that
love it.
is not helpful
Oof.
for anybody.
I love that so much. I can tell from the experiences that you've had over the years. Like I can tell from the experiences that you had that you've given yourself grace now. Like you give yourself
Mhm.
grace to see different perspectives, plan things out in advance. Like say, well, what if this happens? Well, let me here's the unintentional, here's
Yeah.
the intentional. I think that that's wise because it can stop, what do you call it? The trap of tomorrow
Tomorrow
thinking,
thinking. Yeah.
for me, it would be, Oh my goodness. For me, it would be getting overwhelmed and saying, "Oh, you know what? I'll just do it tomorrow." Like that
Yeah.
whole trap of tomorrow thinking really has me right now because
Yeah.
there's so many things that I know I was already scheduling to do today. But
Uh-huh.
because by the time this airs, I will have already moved to my next
Mhm.
country. But in the meantime, right now, like I'm still trying to get everything together. And so
Mhm.
usually my thinking is, well, let me just do the stuff that doesn't stress me out as much right now. And
Mhm.
tomorrow, yeah,
Mhm.
tomorrow I can do
Mhm.
the other. But no,
Yeah.
I'm going to tackle one hard thing today. I just decided that when it came out my mouth.
Yes. Awesome. I love it.
I'm going to tackle one hard thing today. All the rest I'm going to let the easy stuff still just like fall in. So that's
Yeah.
what I'm going to do. I'm going to start easy and then move into the hard and then go easy again. Because if I do the
Yeah.
hard thing first, and some people can do that, most of the time I do, but if I do the hard thing first right now at this point, I'm going to stop and be like, ooh, this is why I said tomorrow. Like, this is why we said no. So I want to kind of give myself that little, that boost, that morale boost,
Uh-huh.
and start with something easy to say, wow, I just finished that. I feel good. Tackle the hard thing,
Uh-huh.
take a break, and then come back and do something easy again.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do
Yeah.
today.
Yes, and you're gonna praise the heck out of yourself when you're doing the hard thing. After the hard thing gets done, you're gonna be like high-fiving yourself, like, "Heck yes, way to go." And then even keeping a track record. My friend has this journal and it has like frogs on the front and it's called Eat the Frog. And so it's all
Yes,
about
I
like,
love that
can
book
you,
too.
yeah, can you do like one hard thing? Like, what one hard thing are
Yeah.
you going to get done today? I
Wow.
like, speaking of procrastination, I have a journal that I have been working on for 2 years now. So trust me, it still comes up. It still happens. There's still perfectionism. It's like we just start to like recognize it, and there comes a point where again it's like no, it's got to get out. But one of the questions in there is like, what do I keep putting off that I'm going to get done today? And really deciding like, what is that one hard thing, or just the one thing? Maybe it's not hard. Maybe we think it's going to be hard and it actually takes us like 10 minutes, or it's actually easier than we think. So and that's I think a great challenge to give all the listeners and viewers here today is like, what's your one thing? And do you want to take the
Mhm,
challenge? And for the next
mhm.
30 days, do one thing that you keep putting off every day and just keep knocking it out one by one. It's just one, but you can do one.
That's accountability right there. I love it. That's accountability. And I looked at you when you said you had a journal that you've been working on for 2 years. I'm like, honey, you and me both. I have a course, I have a journal, I have workbooks, like I have ebooks, I
Right.
have all of these things that we
All
invest
the
money
things.
in buying the resources and the tools. And we're like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. And somehow, some way, time is one of the trickiest little things. It's so slippery. So I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, this was just back in like 2020. It's almost like we're almost in 2023. I'm not trying to rush it,
Yeah.
but this is
Yeah.
halfway through the year, and I haven't even finished a lot of the things that I've purchased resources for and spent a
Yeah.
lot of money,
Yeah.
getting these things, and it's like I keep doing that creative procrastination.
Yeah.
That's it's the procrastination,
Yes. I
like.
like that. Procrastination. Well, and I think there's something to be said for liking to start things, but maybe not finish. Because I feel
Oh,
like I can start things, but I don't know that I'm a good finisher. And I think that's where the
wow.
perfectionism comes into play, you
Yes.
know? And so that's also I think very real of like, of course you're like creating is fun. Like starting something new is fun. Like, no, I don't
Yeah.
want to finish editing that. No, I want to do something fun and new and like
Uh-huh.
exciting.
Yeah, yeah. But I learned that being disciplined is the thing that really gets me past that whole, you know, I don't want to do
Mhm.
this, especially lately. Like over the past few months, I'm going to tell you, and entre
Yeah.
leaders, I'm going to be so honest with you all. Over the past few months, like after I finished my conference, I think I died like the week after. My whole everything was like I'm not doing anything for a week. That
Yeah.
whole week turned into like 5 weeks. I still showed up for
Yeah.
my classes, my university classes, but I was not in it.
Yeah.
It was so fake. I was so fake. I would still show up, good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday, happy Monday, happy Friday. And students they would be none the wiser. But on the
Yeah.
inside, I was just not there. I was very, disconnected. Even, with my my VIP clients for English. Like I'm
Uh-huh.
just like, I really need to up my income so I can leave this because I'm not feeling I just don't have the desire. But it's the thing
Mhm.
that pays my bills. Like all of these things
Mhm.
pay my bills.
Mhm.
And so I'm
Mhm.
just like, Charity, you're going to keep procrastinating. Like procrastination will make you poor. Like
Oh, I love that. That's a great motto.
procrastination. I'm gonna type that up, print it out, and put it in my
That
studio.
yes. That
Procrastination
is
will make you
brilliant.
poor because and perfectionism too. The need for perfectionism and
Yeah.
procrastination will make you poor because you're sitting here trying to do everything, but you're not doing the one thing, the simple
Right.
thing, like you said, that could actually generate some income. And so, how are you
Mhm.
going to call yourself an entrepreneur when you don't have a return?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
no, you're not an entrepreneur if you're not making an income from it. You're just a glorified hobbyist. Like you are doing all the things, you have these
Mhm.
great
Mhm.
hobbies and people are there, but you're not even asking them to invest in your resources, your knowledge, your time. So
Right.
actually I just said all of that and I feel like I stepped on my own toes. Why? Like what was that about? Like
Yeah.
that was random. Why? What was that about?
Me talking to me. Yeah.
Like, what was that about? But anyways, Jillian, this has been so refreshing and so good. Like I told you in the very beginning off camera, I said, we have these conversations and we're thinking, oh, it's going to be 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And then it comes and we
Right.
look up and we're like, dang, it's almost an hour. How did that even happen?
Yeah. I know.
Like
It's just
slippery.
I love these conversations. You are just so fun and easy to talk to and like yeah, I know. Don't I'm going to be back just because like well one, we're just going to have some like happy hours. I'll have a mimosa and you can have like be drinking at night, you know?
Yes.
we'll
Yes, I
we'll get
love it.
together, have some Skype dates and then
I love it.
I'll have to have you on my show. We'll
Yes.
trade and everything. I think that would be lovely.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so I have before I do in this episode, I have to ask you the one question, that burning question that I ask every guest. What is the one characteristic that you believe that every leader, entrepreneur, leader, every leader must have?
So I had a really good one, and now I don't remember what it was because I did not write it down. But I have another really good one. And I
Okay.
think it's being able to assess without shame or judgment. I think really being able to
Ooh.
assess from a place of curiosity and compassion to look at hey,
Wow.
what went well, what didn't go well, did I hit my goal, did I not, and not make it mean anything about you, not taking it personally, and really being able to figure out like, all right, what do I want to do differently next time? What am I going to keep
Yeah.
doing? What do I need to stop doing? What do I need to start doing? And really having some honest conversations. The more that we can assess any area of life, any goal that we have, the more we can like move forward and actually create the goals and the dreams that we have. But we've got to stop beating ourselves up. We've got to get off the shame
Wow.
train. That is a must.
Wow. I love that. Getting off the shame train. I
Yes.
really love that because we definitely do that all the time. I don't know
Hmm.
why do we feel like there's comfort in shaming ourselves? Like why are we are the most sick, twisted, sadistic people I know.
Right.
We're just like, oh, like you beat yourself up and then you feel comforted about it.
Right. Right. Well, it stems from this thing of like punishment. You did a bad thing. You didn't hit your goal. That was bad. And now you deserve to be punished. Like, this is the
Oh,
consequence. I think there's an aspect of like, just, I think with how some of us were raised or how we grew up of like, that was bad. Now you're punished.
yeah.
And that's kind of how we talk to ourselves. We also have that idea of like, if I'm enough of a jackass to myself, then maybe I'll get it together and figure this out. Or like maybe I'll
Yeah.
finally follow through. So it's kind of that like
Yeah.
drill instructor mindset of like, if I beat myself down enough, I'll actually rise to the occasion. And that's
Mhm.
not, it's not very helpful. But it's like, that's just what we learned. Like that's how we learned and what we absorbed and we knew how to do. And so it's just repeating those same cycles over. And this is where we can start to break it. And this is where it's going to,
Wow.
like, you can decide, like, this stops with me. Like, this is not something I'm going to teach my kids or my nieces and nephews. Like, this is what I'm going to
Yeah.
do differently.
Yeah. Listen, entre leaders, I told you it was going to be a great episode. Now, I don't know if you believed me in the beginning, but you should know by now. If I tell you it's going to be a great episode, it's going to be a great episode. And like I said, we're going to have to make Jillian seasonal. Like,
Yes. Oh, I would love that.
I think it's going to be a requirement. Jillian is seasonal. I hereby dub thee a seasonal guest. You come on every season. You have your space in the lab. We will have your own lab coat. Okay?
Yes.
You belong here.
Love
And
it.
I love it so much. Now tell our people, how can they connect with you? For those who are listening to the audio version and they're not watching, they don't see, the information on the screen. How can they connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can visit my website. It's www.bodyyoucrave.com, and you can get access to, you'll see my podcast there, which is just called Body You Crave. You can get it on all major podcasting apps. You'll get free resources. There's a blog, all kinds of good stuff there. So that's the best place to find me. You can also find me on Instagram at Jillian Lama 2. And you can email me, jillian@jillianlama.com. Funny story about my Instagram, by the way. So I have a very unique name. There are not a lot of Jillian Lamas in the world. Like, I'm pretty sure I might be the only one. And Jillian Lama was already taken. And I was like, who has my name? Well, apparently it was me. And I like created this other account and I didn't even realize it. And I was like, oh, that's why I have to be number 2. So I'm like, oh, that's funny. I wonder if there's a way to like
delete
it
it.
that, or like right, can I delete an account? But yeah, no, it was me. I was like, oh, that makes sense. I don't know when I did that, but it's okay.
Yeah. When I first met you, I was like, is her last name Lama like the llama?
Right.
Or is it like Lama? Or, because we try to be fancy. We try to be fancy and say Lama,
Right.
Lama, Lame. Like, what is it
Right.
really? And
Oh, I'm
like,
gonna.
no, it's Lama. Okay.
I'm gonna have to start like, I'm gonna pronounce it now. Lama. It's French. We have a silent, yeah. And then I can start messing with the spelling. There's a silent R on the end. That'll make it real fun.
Accent. There's a little accent over the second A. You just don't see it. It's there. You just don't see it. Like, well, I love it. Jillian, I'm so happy that you were with us. You were able to be with us on today. I so appreciate you and your spirit. That's one of the things that I really love, your personality. You're so authentic. We love authenticity here in the Leaders Lab. So I want to thank you for being you and also for being with us today.
Yes, thank you so much. This was so much fun.
All right, Entreleaders, I hope that you truly enjoyed this very special episode with our guest, Jillian Lama. And again, I say this to you every week, but I literally mean it. Thank you for tuning in on a weekly basis. You don't have to. Like, you could be listening to someone else, you could be doing other things, but you actually take the time to either watch on YouTube or listen for, everywhere. We have Castbox, Spotify, Google, Apple, so many other places where you tune in to listen to the Leaders Lab podcast. So I want to say thank you. You are the reason why there is a season 2. You are the reason why there will be a season 3 and so on. And so because you show up for me, it just makes me want to make sure that I show up for you. And don't forget that you can connect with me everywhere on social media at DrCharityTV. Of course, let me put my website up here. You can also go to www.drcharitytv.com. I have a podcast section. I have the live stream section for YouTube. I have all of those things. And then if you also just want the shortcut to connect with me on social media, you can use linktree/DrCharityTV. And don't forget, like, you can actually subscribe to the podcast. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, what you waiting for? Like, go ahead and subscribe. Okay. Make sure you go ahead and commit. Subscriptions is commitment. So go ahead and subscribe to the podcast and to YouTube. You can also download, rate, and comment on the audio version of the podcast, and then leave your comments in the section under the video for us on YouTube. All right, my loves, that's all that we have for today. I look forward to seeing you next week in the lab.
Thank you for listening to the Leaders Lab podcast. Visit our website at www.drcharitytv.com.